It was interesting. Yesterday, I heard from Karl, first time in a long time, and we did the Mediatek case study the other day, and I recall that he actually worked with Mediatek, and he still does work with Mediatek. So he was asking if I could invite him to come and speak to you, and I thought that was an appropriate thing to do given that recent experience. So I'm going to invite him up here and let him tell his own story about who he is and what his China experience is, and specifically what he's going to talk to us about today. It's kind of interesting, the theme that he's going to run into.
Thank you, David. So I'm going to say a few words of Chinese because, well, I can. 各位中国朋友们，各位中国学生，我叫魏，归国的魏，卡片的卡，希尔片的尔，我叫魏卡尔，我是那个手机安全，然后手机支付的那个转账现在，我负责那个大中华的那个业务。So good afternoon. My name is good morning. Sorry, my name is Karl Weaver. I get one thing right. My name is Karl Weaver. I'm a wireless market mobile device specialist. I've spent my entire professional career selling to Greater China, India, and Asia Pacific regions. I spent 10 years in Taiwan. I spent recently 5 years in Beijing, China for a company called Gemalto to promote mobile payment, near-field communications, and embedded mobile device security, something we call the TEE, Trusted Execution Environment. I was the first public speaker on smartphones in this country and in the world. I was also the first public speaker on the topic called Shanzhaiji, which David didn't know that, in 2009 in Beijing to the American Chamber of Commerce and also Beijing Mobile Monday. I have been doing business in the Asia Pacific since 1985. I started my career in 1982, receiving a scholarship to study Mandarin Chinese from the Taiwanese Ministry of Education. Yeah, I'm about 100 years old. But I exercise and I do the best I can to keep myself physically fit. Now, you're all young students, and you all probably use this thing we call a smartphone. But you might not know the logistics of where these products actually are manufactured. They're not made in America. Nobody makes smartphones here. The term smartphone is something that was invented by a Finnish company. Anybody remember that company? Nokia. Bingo. Nokia invented the term. So anyway, let's fast forward. 2007, I was actually teaching globalization, invited by Albers School to teach globalization for 1 year. I taught globalization here 1 year as I was still working, doing my other things. And I was at the CTIA show in Vegas, and I was giving a presentation about mobile Imax smartphones, because there's only one HTC that made a mobile Imax smartphone. Fast forward, they said, hey, we need a guy who speaks Mandarin who can go to China to promote near-field communications. I said, what is that? And then basically I said, okay, I'll take the gig. I went to China, I started to evangelize near-field communications, and then eventually this embedded mobile device security called the TEE, the Trusted Execution Environment. Okay, basically, I spent 5 years in China promoting this technology to China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, but mostly China and Taiwan. It was there in 2008 that I started to fully engage Mediatek. Mediatek is a fabless semiconductor company based in Hsinchu, Taiwan, with a regional office in Shenzhen, and also a major office for their China headquarters in Beijing, China. I started to engage them to promote near-field communications because I knew that they were promoting the concept of a low-cost manufacturing process to the Chinese handset manufacturers, something that was eventually called Shanzhaiji. Shanzhai means mountain banded, Ji means cell phone. Shanzhaiji, mountain banded cell phones. I gave the first presentation in 2009. It's on YouTube. You can find it.
You don't need to go to YouTube. It's on. I already posted the link on Canvas, so you can from the last session. So you can go into that and find that presentation.
Thank you, David. Before leaving for China on this the most recent gig that I had, I also in 2006 started giving public speaking on China and India. Basically, I knew that both of these countries would be leaders in smartphone production. So I actually predicted in 2001, China would be the largest wireless market. And in 2006, I predicted India would be the largest wireless market. Hello, both of those things have occurred. And then I gave a presentation, the Shanghai presentation, and just before that, 3 times in North America, where I saw the migration of China to India for the manufacturing. What's going on right now is it's Chinese diaspora who are taking the investments, the ROI investments, and they're bringing it into India because basically China's a very, who's from China here? Who's from China? 是中国人吗？中国来的哈。Okay, so you know how expensive China is. Very expensive place to live these days. Right or wrong? Okay. It's actually more expensive to live in China than it is in Seattle, believe it or not. You might find that very difficult to believe. Well, guess what? Inflation is also affecting... Who's from India here? Who's from India? Inflation is also affecting India. Bombay is not a cheap place to live for middle class. Buying a home is expensive these days, right? This is the situation that, the problem with Asia is that 30, 40 years ago when you had huge populations, that population, that labor to produce things was very, very low cost and cheap. Hence, you could have an advantage with low cost labor producing products for the West. Now the problem is you're constrained with land, water, clean land, water, and air, because of the population density. This is a problem. The Chinese call that 人山人海, which is people in the mountains, people in the sea. Now this is an issue that you need to deal with. I guess one way to deal with it is come to the United States. Okay, so this presentation that I'm giving is my experiences dealing with the Chinese and also with the Indian markets. And I call it the Mobile Digital Dragon. Migrates manufacturing to the IT super tiger. And it really is about the globalization of mobile technologies. Mobile technologies, because mobile technologies drive the whole consumer electronics market. Why? Because in your device, whether it's a smartphone, whether it's a tablet, whether it's even a smart TV, guess what? Believe it or not, your smart TV is a mobile device. Why? It has a mobile app processor chip, and it has wireless connectivity. So therefore, it actually is a mobile device. It's just too big, you don't carry it. Okay, so today's presentation, by the way, that's me. That was severely jet lagged, and that was in 2015 in June during Computex show in Hsinchu, which is the headquarters of Mediatek. I have lots of friends in Mediatek, and when I have to, I will push for technology. In Mediatek. This is, I didn't coin the term Chindia, but I have been using it for a very, very long time. I've actually given presentations on this. My first one was at the CTIA show, predicting what I'm going to talk to you about today. Second one was at George Washington University, where I was interviewed by Canadian television. I gave a presentation about India's booming wireless markets to the Seattle Trade Development Alliance, and then when I was back working in China for a company called Gemalto, I started to talk about the Shanghai IT because I saw the phenomenon going on. China's changing very, very fast. I think, who here has been to China? Who's been to China? Oh, of course. Okay. All right, that's good. You've been to China. How'd you get there? Did you swim?
I flew there in 2004.
2004? Wow, that was 10 years ago. Even a lot of changes since then. Fantastic, fantastic. So, but it's totally different than 2004 or 1995. It changes so rapidly. And Chinese diaspora have lots and lots of money now. They have lots of money. But as I said to you before, the problem with Asia, it's very expensive. It's the most expensive place to have an office, basically. You have Hong Kong, number 2, Singapore, number 8, Beijing, number 3, Shanghai, number 12, Tokyo, of course, believe it, Tokyo's number 10. Can you believe that? Tokyo used to be number 1 when David and I were youngsters. And the problem is when you want to buy a Starbucks latte, it's also very, very expensive in Beijing. It's more expensive in Beijing than Seattle because of the logistics costs to put that Starbucks latte together. And actually, on a negative side, CCTV, which is China's propaganda news network, you'll find me not very politically correct, so you'll have to deal with that. China's propaganda news organization tried to criticize Starbucks. And they're trying to say, well, Starbucks is ripping off us Chinese people. And then basically, well, read what this says. He says, basically, we spend so much money, we have unsafe food, we have the most expensive medical system, we pay so much money for all this stuff, and you're complaining about the cost a few pennies more for a Starbucks latte. Basically, people in China love Starbucks. They love to go into Starbucks, it's free Wi-Fi. People in China love Starbucks. So Starbucks is Teflon coated when it comes to doing business in China. Would you agree? Have you been to Starbucks in China? Oh, do you get the 抹茶新冰乐?
I prefer passion tea.
Okay, good. I prefer passion. All right. China's internet is open for business. You know, Mr. Jack Ma has come and put an office here in Seattle, right? What for? Well, he's hiring mostly Chinese engineers. Let's get him to hire some American nationals too. But he's hiring mostly Chinese engineers. He has an office very close to Alibaba, to Amazon. Alibaba does, and they're hiring engineers. And they're here because Seattle is cloud central. It's the biggest cloud concentration of companies on the planet. So if you're in cloud business, that's the place to be. The Chinese are buying lots of products. They used to go to Hong Kong to buy those expensive products, but everything's made in China, so now you can get them locally. There's a lot of Shanghai products, which are not really real, they're fake. You know, but the Chinese are very good at manufacturing. They can make fake leather smell like real leather. They're really good at manufacturing. The problem, though, is that manufacturing is migrating. We'll talk a little bit about that. But okay, since I'm in the smartphone industry, I'd like to talk about the smartphone world, and I'm also in payments, and payments and security are really critical for China, basically. In 2003, I became the first public speaker on smartphones on 3 continents. Why? Because I created something called the Global Smartphone Revolution. China, the mobile digital dragon. Eventually I added India, the IT super tiger. But basically I knew that China was going to drive things because everything's made in China, including these smartphones. It used to be Taiwan, then it migrated to China. You can see here some of the major smartphone makers. This is Xiaomi, Huawei,苹果, Apple, Vivo, I don't know too much, and others. There's lots of Chinese companies. Basically now about 70% of all the smartphone manufacturers in the world are coming from China. And then you've got 2 from South Korea, right? You've got LG and Samsung, and then you've got Apple and the other fruit-sounding company. Who's the other fruit-sounding company in North America? Yeah, what? Yeah, not banana, right? BlackBerry. Yeah, BlackBerry's still around because they have very good security. Okay, very, very good security. But now look what's going on. I have been in and out of Shanghai the past 6 months about 5 times. I've asked people. I've said, I want to give you a free smartphone. Hi, what is your name?
Rebecca.
Rebecca. 你好。中国人吗? Okay, 哪里来的?
Chengdu.
Chengdu. Oh, I gave a presentation in Chengdu. I put a Xiaomi smartphone, a Huawei smartphone, and an Apple smartphone on the table. And I said, which of these do you want? 7 out of 10 times people said, 我爱苹果. 我爱苹果. I love iPhone. Sorry, I deal in 2 different languages. If you can't handle that, leave the room. No, I'm joking. But the situation is, wow, Apple's making their money in China. All right, they're making lots of money in China. But the wages are completely going through the roof. So if you think that coming to America, you're always going to get a huge high salary coming here. Well, actually, in China, the middle class are making good salaries. You can make, after 5 years of working in China, you can make anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 US if you're good. Absolutely. Unequivocally. I saw it. I've seen it. I worked in companies where people were making that much. All right? So the situation, though, is, yeah, that's just the average. Good people make good money. But look at the situation with India. So actually, India is a better deal for American manufacturers to go into right now, not China. I'll explain why. India is a better deal. The software capabilities of the Indians are well known, legendary, and of course China manufactures, and China has software people, great software people, lots of hackers, but great software people too. But the problem is cost of labor is expensive in China, very expensive, just like the cost to live there. And of course Indonesia is actually a growing market too, because there's lots of Indonesians, lots of Chinese Indonesians too, but lots of Indonesians. It's the largest Muslim population in the world. Not the Middle East, actually, it's Indonesia. People say, well, okay, China's expensive, jobs are going to come back to America. I don't think so. I think maybe in certain instances, but actually where they're going is Vietnam. Who here knows anything about this company in Redmond called Microsoft? This very fragmented company called Microsoft? What do you know about Microsoft? Tell me what you know about Microsoft.
Oh, you're asking me?
One of you, somebody went like that.
Well, I know that Bill Gates is still around there. I mean, he's not actually in the company right now, but he's still around there. I know about his foundation. I know that it's all over Seattle.
Good. Did you know that Microsoft bought Nokia? And then they basically murdered Nokia. I will say that, they murdered Nokia. Is that a right statement? They murdered Nokia. They got this Elop fellow, Stephen Elop, went to Finland and basically said to Nokia, we're going to buy you, things are going to be great, we're going to take everything over, we'll get lots of money. Within 2 years, they basically gutted Nokia, laid off all the employees, and then what do? They moved all the manufacturing from Beijing to Vietnam this year. Did you know that? Well, because Microsoft apparently has good PR. So anyway, that's the situation. So I started noticing that about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. The manufacturing is migrating to Vietnam and also to India. Some of it to Indonesia as well. But India would be the most logical place for it to go because the population of India is tremendous. It's, I think, about 1 billion. Is that right? About 1 billion now?
I'm not exactly sure.
Never mind. I'm thinking about 1 billion. Here's the key. It's only 75% saturated for smartphone and electronic device usage in India compared to China. China's 100% saturated. Hong Kong is like 130% saturated. Taiwan is like 110% saturated. That means everybody in Greater China, 大中华区, has one or more cell phones. So it's very, very saturated. So look at this situation. The standards for which wealth is measured is the iPhone. You have an iPhone, you have power. Oh, look at, you've got an iPhone. And look at that nice cover there. Wow. Very nice, sir. Very nice. Well, you must have power. Good for you. So you can see the situation. The cost of an iPhone is not cheap, but China's number 4, India's number 8. An iPhone gives you immediate status. It is going to be used like the $1 coffee in New York that they measure, you know, your standard of living. Your standard of living. Oh my goodness, they're using the iPhone now. Multiple forces. There are a lot of reasons why the manufacturing is going from China into India. Labor costs are number 1. It's not the only reason. Otherwise, they could just take it back to America. If they, you know, if they wanted to keep labor costs high, they could bring the manufacturing back here. We can manufacture everything in the United States, but they're bringing it to India for other reasons. Now, the problem is China's very techno-nationalistic and protectionist, but there's IP leakage. People are stealing IP because everybody wants to start their own company, and IP is leaking in the manufacturing process and also during the R&D design phase, and that's really too bad. So if you can't protect your IP in China, what are you doing designing in China? Third thing is the protectionism and techno-nationalism. I was able to overcome the protectionism and techno-nationalism in China by using Chinese social media to give public speaking presentations in Chinese and then upload my social media to Chinese video streaming websites. Did you know that YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter and all Google products are banned in China? Hello, Houston! we got a problem. You're late for my class. You missed half of it. 轻松一下, relax. What is your name?
D.
D?
Yeah.
D? Is that the grade I'm going to give you? No, I'm joking. Nice to meet you. Just joking. Relax, everyone. So, if you look at this situation problem, this protectionist problem, you have to figure out how to overcome it. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Hello, they're all banned. So how do you get into the Chinese diaspora to promote your technology, especially if it's foreign technology? You use 中国社会媒体. Ah, there you go, bingo. You use Chinese social media, because guess what? I can send a video from here to China and get it on their social media. Nobody can block me. Ah, there you go. Good strategy. Ah, let's give this to Mr. Bill Gates, huh? Saturation of the market. As I said, the smartphone market is very saturated in China, but India it's not. But it's very expensive in India to buy a smartphone, and lots of people can't afford it. But there's a huge thriving middle class in India, just like the middle class in China, I think, is larger than the United States. Is that correct? Something like that. Fierce dog eat dog, local handset. There are hundreds of smartphone manufacturers in China. It's fierce. It's fierce. So going to India, there are only a few manufacturers in India. I think a total of like 7 local companies, and then all the Chinese and Taiwanese companies have gone in there. Now China's, okay, so I don't want to sound too sensational, but the economy is going down. Okay, so it's like 4% growth. Oh my God, terrible. Come on, 4% growth, officially, is pretty good still, not too bad. So it's not 7%, there's no way. It might be about 4%. It's still growth. If you go back to China, you can still find a job. Don't worry, relax. 轻松一下. But the economy is going down because, of course, labor costs are gone up. The cost to live has gone up. The cost to get your Starbucks latte has gone up. And it's already gone down in places like South Korea and Taiwan, the other dragons, right? Japan, well, that's the situation in Japan. The end of manufacturing, well, China is never going to end manufacturing, but the end of low-cost manufacturing in China is coming very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. And they're trying to shift to high-end production and also consumption. They want you to buy all these Louis Vuitton wallets and handbags. They want that. You don't need to go to Hong Kong. You can get it in China, maybe a little more expensive. Investments in India are up. What caught my eye about this migration, which I talked about almost 10 years ago, was Foxconn. Because guess what? Foxconn makes the Blackberries, the iPhones, and the Xiaomi smartphones. Xiaomi means little rice. You've probably never heard of this company, right? Xiaomi. Is that right? Little rice? Little rice, little piece of rice. Xiaomi is an interesting company in general because they don't sell their cell phones to the operators. They sell them online and they upgrade that operating system like Apple does almost every week. So it's really cool. They're always upgrading the OS. You have to wait. We're waiting like waiting for Microsoft to Windows 10. Well, your hair turns white waiting for Microsoft. Anyway, this is a big thing. Foxconn has invested $5 billion in Maharashtra state to start manufacturing over the next 2-3 years. Hello, Houston. We got an issue here. Manufacturing is leaving China. Can't hide it. Now the 2 thing is, Google has had trouble in China. Huge trouble. They took off from China in 2010 because they were sticking up for the moral imperative, which is we don't counterfeit, we don't like censorship, blah, 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 blah. Well, where are they now? Excuse me, I'm not very politically correct. They're kissing the president of China's butt so that they can get back into China. But the president of China did not allow Google to come to Microsoft last month during the big brouhaha about the president of China coming to Seattle. Google was nowhere in sight. Nowhere in sight. Why? I think Google needs to do a little bit better job. They did take Motorola brand and sell it to Lenovo, but that's only the brand. The IP they still keep. Okay, it's about IP protection, right? So Google would not give up the IP. Google wants to get into India too. Why? Because Google has tax problems in India. That's why they hired an Indian CEO recently to kind of show India, well, we're interested in India. Yes, they are interested in India, but they're going to have some issues getting into India's hugely bureaucratic country as well. Good luck on that one. And then Uber. Uber recently announced plans to go into India. Now, I don't know much about Uber in India, but I know about Didi Kuaidi in China, and it is very popular. It is very popular. Even the taxi drivers are allowed to use that app. So it's not like private people only can use that app to get the customers. That's interesting. Apple plans to take a bite out of India. Did you know that Steve Jobs, this guy named Steve Jobs, who's a visionary legend, I never met him, but I met Gates, I met most of these other wireless dudes. Steve Jobs actually went to India and actually got his vision for the Apple name, not from the Beatles, which people think. No, he got it from traveling to India, and that's how he got the vision of naming his company Apple, which is very, very interesting. Basically, iPhone sales are going to increase. It's only like 2% market share right now, but it's going to expand. It's going to expand rapidly. They're investing lots in India. You can see some of the facts here, which is that 2 billion sales in 2015. This is the expected revenue. But they're investing heavily because, hey, if the phones are manufactured there, right, that means they can make them cheaper and get them into the country easier. Apple needs to manufacture, not just distribute iPhone in India, like they manufacture in China. So, but there are things blocking them. Samsung's number one in India. They used to be basically number one in China, but now the Chinese have taken over. Chinese handset manufacturers. But Samsung has been manufacturing in India since 2005, a long time. The Indian government in the 80s, leading up to the 90s, was very protectionist, and anything you wanted to import into India was taxed with a high tariff. I mean, like 200, 500%. They lowered that at the turn of the century, and manufacturers started to come in and build in India. But the thing is when you take an iPhone in, if you're bringing the iPhone in, there's still a high tariff. It's better to manufacture the iPhone inside of India. And basically, India is going to be the third. India is the third largest smartphone market on the planet. Probably be number 2, overtaking the United States in a year or two, which is very, very interesting. These are just some of my research on this Micromax, which, by the way, I got an email from today. I'm starting to communicate with this company for the technology I'm promoting now. So I had not been dealing with this company before. I met them once, but now I might be dealing with them again. You can see that Micromax is number 1, basically, for Indian vendors. It's number 1 for Indian vendors. Now, granted, some of these figures and facts are basically collected. Well, this is one source, Counterpoint, but they are a big company and somebody you need to take consideration for if you're trying to promote technologies to these countries. Now, let's talk about Mediatek again. Mediatek realizes that what they did in China with the Shanzhaiji, the whole Shanzhaiji phenomenon, which was really because of Mediatek, the whole Shanzhaiji phenomenon was Mediatek working with Taiwanese factories in Suzhou and Shenzhen and Dongguan, producing electronics components, assembling them into low-cost smartphones where you don't need to pay for the IP. Okay? So a lot of it was very shady and gray 5-6 years ago. But now, those companies, blue ocean strategy, those companies have become well known. They're paying for the IP, and now they're quite famous, and they're growing. Okay? That same thing is going to happen in India, and that's why Mediatek realizes India is a critical market to go into. Xiaomi, I mentioned about this little rice. Xiaomi has started to manufacture in India. So you see, everything I just told you is not BS. There's the proof right there. It's just starting to manufacture. Apple will do that eventually when the time is right. Oh, but you know, you don't want to offend our Chinese manufacturing facility or what we're doing in China. They won't be very happy if you immediately take all the manufacturing and move it. Well, I think it's a fact, it's a reality, it's just going to happen. I'm not sure what you can do about it. China's economy, this is my summary by the way, and you're still awake. This is good, you haven't fallen asleep. I'm very happy. Oh, you're happy too, good. China's economy is changing. It's changing because things are expensive in China, and actually it's Chinese money going abroad from Taiwan and from China. It's not us Americans who are taking the factories and putting it in these foreign countries. We stopped doing that a long time ago. Actually, the Chinese take the risk. The Chinese have the investment, and the Chinese are the ones putting the factories in Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and India. It's the Chinese money. It's Taiwan and mainland Chinese money. So this is part of the whole globalization. Globalization means you're going to manufacture. The right conditions exist in that particular country for you to go in and to produce. The Chinese technical diaspora. The Taiwanese are very sophisticated. Did you know that Taiwan is the semiconductor capital of the world? Not Texas. It's actually Taiwan. TSMC, ever hear of this company? Did you realize that most of these semiconductor companies in the United States are fabless, which means they don't produce anything? They give the designs to TSMC in Taiwan to produce OEM private label. The same thing with all the smartphones that are produced private label. It's basically Chinese and Taiwanese technical know-how, which is taking the factory and the know-how, labor, land, technology, into India and all these other countries. You can't just go in with money. You have to have technology. You have to have management expertise, right? So that's what's happening. The thing is, these Western technology firms, there's a challenge that you're isolated from what I term Chindia, or China and India. You're isolated because you're back here. Let's say I'm a software programmer. I'm back here. Here I am. Okay, I want you to make this mobile app. Oh, okay. Oh, wait a minute. Nobody's making smartphones here. Well, do I have to go to China? Oh, India? Yes. Otherwise, how do you connect your software, right, and debug a beta of your app with the hardware? Oh, just send me 2 handsets. Well, I got problems. They're not working. Americans doing development work for software are so isolated from the manufacturing. It's a big problem, okay? So that's why big companies like Microsoft, Cisco, they've all taken their major investments and resources out of the United States, and they put them in Asia to be close to the manufacturing, the site of the manufacturing. But I fear that as we transfer technology offshore to China and India, we are creating a 1-2 punch for the 2 largest competitors for American companies and American technology, because it's this osmosis. Technology does not stay in one place too long. Everybody wants to think they control technology. They don't. They can't. They never will. And I don't think America will control innovation and creativity forever. I think you have creativity in India. I think you have lots of creativity in China. I don't think the Americans have a monopoly on any of this stuff. So my fear is if we sit back here lethargically sipping our Starbucks latte when the rest of the world is moving ahead with various technologies I could talk to you about, much more advanced in utilization than we are using back here, I fear that we're falling behind because we're missing the boat with what's going on in a very dynamic part of the world. So, my challenge to you guys is, first of all, my challenge to you guys is go and learn an Asian language, whether it's Chinese or Hindi or one of the other important languages in the Far East. You're still young, you're not married, most of you. You don't have kids to worry about. We do, us older dudes. When you graduate from university, you have no tie-downs except your mortgage, your student loans. Guess what? You can defer those going overseas. Not a big problem. Go overseas, learn foreign language, pick up this knowledge, and work for a tech company. And you gain value with your careers. And then you help, as an American, you help to You help American companies become stronger, competing against China, because guess what? They're not waiting for you. So that's my final suggestion to you people here who want to improve what you're doing here, because you know you're only going to be in college for a certain period of time. When you get out of college, then the bubble bursts and you have to find a job. Oh my goodness, what a can. So anyway, that's my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm never politically correct. I'm always controversial. Write down all my comments. Send it to Seattle Times. Thank you very much. My name is Karl.
Anybody got
I've got questions. If you have questions, I'm very, very happy to take them as well. But do I have time, David?
Mm-hmm.
I do? Okay.
You got any questions about what
I
we
won't fight
said or anything, any follow-ups from the case study we did the other day?
Oh, please, don't worry. I've turned the camera off. You can say whatever you want. Professor Wei, you stink! Or whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. Gee, I know you have a question. No, you've got a question. Yeah, you've got a question. Go ahead.
You got it.
Go ahead, sir.
So we did a case study on Shanzai and their counterfeit phones. Could you talk about like the political situation, the political implications of the smartphones, the fact that it's saturated?
Yeah, basically, and I'll never be politically correct, so why start now? The whole Shanghai phenomenon I started to see in 2008 when I came to China. By 2010, it had completely ruined Motorola and Nokia's markets, because those Shanghai vendors didn't have to pay for copyrights, licensing, like Bluetooth, you need a license. Oh, I didn't know that. All of those protocols that you pay for to put in your smartphone, you have to pay for those things. The Shanghai vendors in Shenzhen were not paying for them. They were shipping low-cost handsets, cool-looking handsets, that had like, it said Samsung instead of Samsung. Wow, it's a counterfeit, but it's so damn close. If you're a third-world farmer and you want to buy a Samsung smartphone, you don't even know the difference between the real and the fake. So that is what killed. Generally speaking, it wasn't Microsoft that killed Nokia. It was the Shanghai vendors in Shenzhen who started exporting to the same markets that Nokia and Motorola did. And when that started to happen, that was the end of them, because they're selling handsets with a fake OS, right? At that time, they weren't so much smartphones. They were feature phones, not smartphones, and not with a smartphone OS. But they basically killed Motorola and Nokia. That's one of the things that killed those two companies, which were the leaders. The other one was they moved too slowly into smartphones. But with Mediatek coming on board, they were able to allow all these so-called Shanghai vendors to get, you know, in America we say get milk, right? Get milk, right? Well, in the Chinese world we say get legal. And they got legal by using Mediatek's chip, along with low-cost manufacturing capabilities and a good component BOM cost, in order to make low-cost smartphones. Smartphones, low cost. So Mediatek is more responsible for the death of Nokia and Motorola than anybody else, because it was Mediatek's chip and their low-cost manufacturing facility. When Nokia and Motorola were manufacturing smartphones, it used to take 9 months to produce a new smartphone. With Mediatek, 2 to 3 months. You cut the manufacturing time. You can get products into the market much faster. So Shanghai G were a bad aftertaste to the traditional OEM smartphone manufacturers. But many of those companies have gotten legal and morphed into big companies today, like Xiaomi, Oppo, some of these other companies. They were all Shanghai vendors when I first started visiting these companies. And they weren't legal, but now they all are. And now they all realize they have to be legal, because nobody will buy. The whole Shanghai phenomenon is almost dead now. It's pretty much gone away, because there's no need for them. Because you can buy legal low-cost smartphones in India or China, the legal thing, using Mediatek's chip. And Mediatek is not the only low-cost chip vendor. You've got other chip companies that want to sell into China. And you've got Chinese. Mediatek is not from China, it's from Taiwan. So there is a difference there. There's the whole protectionism issue, which is, you're not from China, you're Taiwanese. Oh, well, wait a minute, we're all Chinese, right? No, you're from Taiwan, it's a foreign chip company. Oh, wait a minute, isn't Taiwan part of China? Oh, the whole political issue it goes into play there. But actually, Mediatek is a foreign chip vendor to the Chinese. Now, there are at least 5 or 6 local Chinese chip companies that are doing very well selling the chips to make the tablets and the smartphones. So there's no need for the Shanghai anymore. The Shanghai were a phenomenon. It's a spirit, a Wild West mentality, but there's no need for Shanghai anymore because it's low cost and legal now to manufacture smartphones. So I know you just did the research on the Shanghai. Where were you in 2009 when I gave the first one in China? It was a long time ago, right? So Shanghai is still around, but basically no need for Shanghai. So Shanghai was only came about because the Chinese people wanted to make creative smartphones like the cell phone Razr, which was given to me as a present when I gave a presentation at Beijing University. A phone that's a shaver. You can talk on the phone. Wait a minute, it's got a shaver. So it's true. I have one. I've still got one. I should have brought it in. I didn't know Shanghai was something you wanted to talk about today as much. But anyway, I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
You know,